It's finally time. Our scattering report for Mac Jones, future starting quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers.
Stop
A
it.
redshirt,
No.
a redshirt junior who played at Alabama, a quarterback who can win within structure, who can produce when he's throwing to open receivers, who's accurate at multiple levels of the field, but still has some very obvious physical limitations. We've got 9 plays for you that outline what McCorkle does well, what he needs to improve, and really a masterpiece that we are going to end with, the coup de grace, if you will, that I think you'll really, really enjoy. Let's get to the first play. It's one that shows off what he does really, really well, and that is his underneath accuracy on a route that I would expect him to complete a lot of for Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, and this is so much of what he did, and so many of his completions were on stuff like this. And to his credit, while this isn't an overly difficult throw by any stretch, you want guys that can hit this, consistently at a very high level, right? This should be a near automatic completion, and this is basically what it was. I mean, he was throwing catchable passes on stuff like this, like over 95% of the time. And so again, it's not, he doesn't have a ton of room for error. It's not as open as some of the throws that we're going to get to. I mean, he's got, the dropping underneath defender that's there. He's got this corner or safety that's in man coverage here that's over the top. So, you need to put it in a good spot. And as we get to the end zone view here, it is in basically a perfect location, right? So I think this is kind of the area that he excels at the most, is just throwing the ball very accurate with great timing. I mean, you can see here, last step in his drop and the ball's out. There's no extra hitch steps. There's no extra wasted movement. This is thrown with great timing, and that ball is right there on that front shoulder. Perfect ball location, exactly where you want it to be.
He's got a fairly quick release. He's got an awkward throwing motion, which you'll see here a little bit. It looked almost like Rivers-esque, where he kind of like shot puts the ball, but yeah, it's quick nonetheless. I mean, he's got a relatively compact throwing motion compared to some of the other quarterbacks that we've seen. But his underneath accuracy isn't just where he wins. He also wins with his intermediate accuracy as well. This is actually a pretty neat little play design. You've got echoes of Andy Reid with some of the window dressing, but this play is one where it really shows off what he can do navigating the pocket and still delivering a really accurate ball.
Yeah, so this is, only really 2 guys, right, downfield in the route, but it's kind of a long developing play. You've seen a lot of college teams start to utilize this type of crossing route. I think Oklahoma, I feel like, with Lincoln Riley was one of the first teams that I saw that started doing this a lot and making it a big part of their offense. But it basically, he's going to start on like what looks like a normal crossing route, and then it kind of breaks up late, right? And so it takes a little time for that to happen. And as you can see, they've only got the one safety on defense there. They're bringing some extra guys in for pressure here. And he's got to navigate pretty tight quarters there in the pocket, right? Step up from that outside pressure, stays in good throwing motion, keeps that ball protected, right, with 2 hands on it, and then delivers a very nice, accurate throw with some good touch over the top, right? You've got this cornerback that's in this trail position here, so you want to make sure that you don't leave this, short or inside, or a place where he can kind of recover and get to it. And he does a nice job. I think we'll get a better look at it again here on the end zone, but a really nice job dropping this in over the top, right? Making sure that defender's not going to be able to have a play on it and allow his guy to make the catch and continue running into the end zone.
And I just love the play design in general, because you've got that kind of return motion that you see from the wideout, and that, because they're in cover 1, effectively almost creates a pick. Like you almost have those defenders run into each other. It's just enough. Yep. But ultimately, I mean, it's going to be a relatively open throw, one that is, going to be something that he's got to actually put some effort under in order to hit, and does it fairly well. Now, it wasn't just intermediate and short throws where he was pretty good. He also had some pretty good deep throws as well. This is going to be a deep throw down the sideline where he shows some of his accuracy as well as some of his anticipation.
Right. So I think, we talked a little bit, if you listened to the pod already, about how his arm strength is kind of got a noticeable, I don't want to say dip, obviously it's just like he doesn't have the same sort of zip and strength that the other guys have to work with. And so I think when he excels with the downfield stuff, this is what it's like, right? Which is a ball that's thrown relatively early on in the play, but it's thrown again with great timing, which is kind of one of his really strong areas. And then he does a good job of putting the ball location there, right? So, I mean, you can see when he starts to let this go, he's only basically off the first kind of big hop step there in that hitch. And the receiver is, basically about 10, 12 yards off the line of scrimmage at this point. So it's pretty early in the down. It's not like it's waiting for a guy to get open on a long developing route. Like this is basically a quick game type throw almost with from a timing perspective. And this is one, that does end up open. The receiver's going to separate a little bit late here. But it's not open when he's letting it go, right? When he's letting this go, this guy's still in tight coverage. And so he wants to make sure that he's not leaving this underneath. And this is how he's able to do that and kind of compensate for an arm that's maybe not as strong as the other guys, is getting it out early, giving his receiver time to kind of run underneath it and still get that deep shot in your arsenal.
And that anticipation is something that all the top quarterbacks have shown to a certain degree, but especially on the deep throws, it's really where Mac Jones, he has to throw with anticipation in order to get the ball there, and he does it fairly well, and he does it consistently. This is another accurate deep shot with also good timing, also throws it early. This is probably one of his longer throws in the air because it's got to go across the field, but it is ultimately a really, really good throw that he throws with anticipation.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite throws from him, probably. With that kind of intermediate one that we saw that I really liked. But again, here is he's going to hit this corner route, right, that they're getting kind of from Devonta Smith out of the stack, and here is when right here, right. So he's starting his throwing motion here, and Smith is just barely starting to get into the break of his route, right? So again, timing is just really on point. And then he's, again, he's throwing this right on the sideline. I mean, this is just an excellent ball location for this type of throw. Obviously, you want to keep it outside, right? You don't want to leave it behind so that defender potentially has a chance if he's in tighter coverage there to make a play on it, but you can't lead him too far, right? You don't want to throw it out here and then he doesn't have a chance to bring it inbounds. So this is, just right on the money, right on the sideline. You really can't ask for a better throw than this. And it's a long throw, right? He's throwing this opposite hash, but you can kind of see the difference even here with, and this is a great throw. I don't want to take anything away from this play, but you see, he's got to kind of get into this, right? He's getting his body into it. He's taking a nice big hitch step in there, getting moved over to the middle of the field a little bit more to try to shorten it as much as he can. And he's really got to get into it, to get it out there that far. So you can see, he has obviously had success on these type of throws, finding ways to kind of compensate for him. But as we'll get to in, some plays here, it wasn't always something he was able to do.
And you look at the arc of the ball. We talked, I think, before with Lance, where you can see that the ball doesn't necessarily have too much of an arc. That speaks to the arm strength that's on that frozen rope. This is a bit more arcing type of nose dip kind of ball, which isn't necessarily bad, but it just is the difference in their arms. Now, we get to the next play. And there's a lot of talk about Mac Jones and how the situation helps him out, how his receivers and the players around him really make it so he doesn't have to do a whole hell of a lot. Well, this is what that looks like. It looks like him throwing to a lot of open receivers, and this is one of those plays.
Yeah, this, I think the Mississippi State game, right? We were joking beforehand that they must have thrown what felt like about 50 deep shots in this game. But yeah, you're getting, they're going to target, I can't tell who that is exactly, but the receiver here in the slot, and he's going to hit him with the double move, right? And you get the safety just overplaying it really hard. This nickel is in trail and he gets left behind. And so you see a lot of this, right? Where it's just an Alabama receiver, one of the many that they have with a ton of speed, that's just well behind the defense. And it doesn't really matter too much. Like, as long as you're not leaving this super short, right, to where this receiver has to basically stop to catch it, you're probably going to be fine because you just have so much space, right? And he's only gaining on these guys because they're trying to change direction, and especially the safety, right? He's moving forward here and has to stop and try to recover. Like it's not going to happen. And so you've got a ton of room for error on this type of throw. And this was a lot of what his deep balls were, right? The receiver can slow a little bit. It's underthrown a little bit, but the receivers are so fast and they have so much space to work with that they can slow up, grab the ball, get back up to speed before the defense has a chance to recover.
Mac Jones had 600 more yards than anyone in the country to open receivers. It felt like a lot of them were on double moves. A lot of them were on routes where the receivers just had some space. And yes, they're not necessarily gimme throws, but when you talk about the situation helping the receiver, or the situation helping the quarterback rather, this is a bit of what they mean. It's throwing a Waddle, it's throwing a Smith on plays like that. Now, if he's accurate, if he's throwing to open receivers, he's got a good situation. Sometimes you can see his arm start to fail him sometimes. And you notice it on some throws where he leaves it underthrown or inside into the cornerback's leverage. And that's exactly what happens on this play.
Right. Most of his turnover-worthy plays, which he didn't have, a high percentage of. Most of these, top quarterback prospects, luckily did not have that in college, which is what you would expect from somebody that's going to go in the top of the first round. But when he did have them, it was a lot of accuracy-driven stuff, and it was a lot of stuff where the arm strength showed up on these deeper routes, right? So this is one where he doesn't get the wide-open receiver, right? So you've got this corner here that they're going to try to hit another double move, right? Sell that intermediate out, break up the sideline. Corner does a great job getting kind of hands-on here and getting on that receiver's hip. And so he's in great position. So if you're going to make this throw, which, I don't want to make it sound like this is some incredibly easy throw or something that everybody else is going to complete. But if you're going to make this throw, like this is a throw you need to have the arm strength for, because the place that you need to get it right is over the top. It needs to be over the top and outside because the corner has that kind of low inside leverage, right? He's right on this low hip of the receiver. And so if you leave it inside or short, the defender's the one that has the better play on the ball. And that's exactly what happens here is, he doesn't get enough on it. He can't get it up over the top of that defender. So he's asking Devonta Smith to basically go up and make a circus catch. But the defender's position is so good that he's able to keep him walled off and make that interception. So those were the type of things that you saw when he did put the ball in harm's way. It was usually a situation like this that was the cause.
And he throws it from the 45, and it gets down to maybe the goal line. In just about every other video that we've done so far, we've shown you a play where that quarterback, whether it be Wilson, Fields, or Lance, has thrown like a 50 or 60-yard bomb in the air, leading the receiver over the top or on a rope. Yep. And in this case, you've got Jones, who is not pressured. He's got all the time that he needs. He can step up into the throw, which he does, and he just hangs it inside, and it's kind of short on a throw that I think if any other quarterback tries to make this, it's either incomplete out the back of the end zone or a touchdown.
Yeah, and one last point, right, because we've talked about on a lot of the good throws down the field, how he's able to throw kind of earlier in the play with really good timing. Here's one where he doesn't really he kind of gets to it almost a little bit late, right, where he's really looking to see and try and hit this crosser first, and that's kind of where his eyes are going first there, but he sees this safety breaking over the top of it, which is what moves him back outside. But the combination of getting to that where it's not kind of this first look on the play, and he's getting to it later. He has to kind of, again, take a couple hitch steps here to really try to get into the throw. And at this point, rather than him letting this go like on that first deep ball we threw, or we showed, right, like the receiver was basically about here, right? So he's about 10 to 12 yard area off the line of scrimmage. Here he's closer to 20 yards off the line of scrimmage, right? And so you're having to put this much further in the air, and that's where you see the arm strength, lacking, and he just doesn't have the kind of arm to make that type of throw.
But now we get to the part of Mac's game where he really is deficient as compared to the other quarterback prospects, and that's going to be what he does on the move. And frankly, he's just not going to be able to shake NFL defenders when he's not able to shake A&M's defensive tackles. This is a sack that he has in the fourth quarter of a game where you can see on this play just his general lack of athleticism to do anything other than basically fall over.
Yeah, I mean, I think it shows two things, right, on this play that are worth pointing out. So, one, yeah, I mean, you see that there is really not much effort. I think he knows, right, that he's kind of done for, and that's why he ends up just kind of eating this and taking the sack. But I think you also see how he's not even fully comfortable throwing on the run as much, right? Because what he's really got, so this is designed roll out the entire way, and really the first guy he should be looking at, because this guy's just kind of clearing out here, but really he's getting this out route right at about the sticks that he's looking to get, and it's open. It's here. Like, and he can get, if he throws this on the move, you know, again, the timing wise, right? This receiver's making his break now. He can make this throw now before this guy has a chance to close if he does it on the move. But instead, he wants to be able to set up, get his feet planted, and then make the throw. And that's what gives this guy time to be able to kind of close that distance and get up on him. And at that point, the play's over, right? He's not going to be able to do anything with that other than just kind of take a dive and you know, he doesn't turn the ball over and take get a situation where he could fumble on the sack and you just, you know, go on to the next down.
I mean, if you've seen the Lance video, if you've seen the Wilson video, even if you've seen the Fields video, in each one of those instances, we've shown a throw on the move where the quarterback is on the move and they're throwing. They don't have to really stop and set up. They can just fling it. And here, if he's able to just kind of fling it or change his arm angle, throw off platform, do any of the other things that the other quarterbacks have shown, then this may be a completion. Instead, he's falling on his face.
Yeah. And I think so here on this next play, right, we get another example of him on the move. This one, rather than being a designed rollout, is something that he gets kind of moved out of the pocket with this pressure inside. And we see him actually get a chance to let it go here. And this is why. So this is actually a 2019 play, and you see why he might be a little uncomfortable letting some of these go, because the accuracy just really falls apart, right? He's when he's got his feet set, he's in the pocket, he's throwing that short and intermediate stuff. He's the most accurate guy in this class, but you get him on the move and things really take a dive at this point. And so again, I mean, this throw, he really has a good amount of space to be able to complete this, right? The Judy has a lot of separation here. You maybe got to be a little worried about this guy who's got eyes back toward the quarterback, even though he's locked up, maybe peeling off there, but you've got space to just kind of put it on Judy before he can have a chance to kind of close here and make this, but he ends up missing it wildly. The corner does peel off and nearly gets to the overthrown ball, right? Just can't quite bring it in for the pick there.
Yeah, Mac Jones had the highest percentage of inaccurate throws when he was on the move when compared to the other quarterback prospects that we broke down in this series of videos. It's just not something that he does. In the pocket, he can do things really, really well. He can be surgical inside of that pocket. The moment you move this guy off of his spot, all of a sudden balls are just all over the place. They're erratic, and it's probably why he doesn't have very many of them in 2020.
Yeah, he doesn't have a ton of examples to throw on the move because I think of what we've seen in these two plays, right? He knows that he's not going to be as successful with those, and a lot of times he's not even getting himself, because of the athleticism, he's not even getting himself in position to make a lot of these throws. So,
and then you get to his masterpiece. This is when you put all of what he can do on the move into a bucket. This is what you get. We're just going to let this run. Please watch this happen.
It's really pretty great stuff.
It's, great in a certain sense.
Nothing gets me going quite like a pick six ball in the red zone. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think this is one of the few. And so, we mentioned earlier, right, that a lot of his turnover worthy type stuff was largely a product of inaccuracy and missing on some of the downfield stuff where he just didn't quite have the arm to get it there. You get kind of a combination of everything, right? This is very much one of the worst plays that he put on tape. But I think you see it kind of wrapped up, right? The things that he struggles with. It's getting on the move, being able to make something happen out of structure. It's just not there. You see he gets pressure here. He tries to stop. Again, he starts to basically fall over. He can't take any sort of contact from a defender and keep his feet. So he's stumbling forward. here is where he makes really the mistake, right? The A&M play, we see him basically just eat it in this situation and take the sack. But this is third down, right? The other play was first down, so they had, they knew you're going to be able to get back out on the field. This is third down. He's trying to make something happen, lets this go. It's horribly inaccurate, thrown right to a defender. And the only reason that this isn't a pick six is because Alabama's got some really fast people that can track that dude down.
Yeah, I mean, that is just everything that you don't want out of a quarterback. And while this is his masterpiece, he doesn't have too many of these types of plays on tape. As David mentioned, he's only got 4 turnover-worthy plays under pressure. The one that we showed earlier was not under pressure. He threw that from a clean pocket. But this is, I mean, look at this. Everything goes wrong here. He falls over trying to move, gets pinballed in the face by an Arkansas defender, and throws it to basically the wrong jersey in a terribly inaccurate decision. There's just so much womp on this play. I can't even handle it.
You know what it reminds me of as he's running here? So we've been, the wife and I have been watching a lot of Friday Night Lights. This is her first time watching
Saracen?
I wasn't even going to say Saracen, just like the general, sometimes they show practice clips, right? And you can tell that like, okay, this guy's not he's moving fucking slow. Like there's some plays they show Smash doing drills. I'm like, the guy's jogging out there. Like this guy is not a football player, right? And this is kind of what it looks like with Mac Jones, where it's just like he's moving at a speed that's like, is this in slow motion? Like he looks significantly slower than everybody else that's out on the field there.
I'm just happy you didn't say post paralysis Jason Street, because that would have been that would have been worse.
I mean, to be fair, Street's probably moving faster in that wheelchair during wheelchair rugby than Mac Jones is right now.
My God. Oh my God. Well, Mac Jones, he's a player who he definitely deserves to be in the first round conversation. I think, especially if you think of the first couple plays that we showed you, his accuracy was really, really good. He throws with anticipation. If he understands the offense, which he's shown that he can produce at a high level. He may have a really high floor in this draft class, but ultimately you look at plays like this, you look at what he doesn't offer you as compared to some of the other prospects, and you think to yourself, man, he better do all the other things really, really well if you're going to sacrifice some of the out of the pocket, out of structure juice for a play like this. So that's our scattering report on Mac Jones. Thanks again for tuning in. And as always, go Niners.
Okay. Video is going. Ready to draw, not a circle. I'm just going to scribble this time because I'm sick of your judgment.
All right, let's sync audio and video in 3, 2, 1. Just an angry scribble. I'm glad it was red.
Red for rage.